Hello, and welcome back to the Distant Tourist Podcast, the podcast where each week we look at one of Japan's 47 prefectures and we just talk about it. The things we'd like to see, places we'd like to go, that sort of thing. I'm Robert.
I'm Thomas.
And this week we are taking a look at Hokkaido. Thomas, would you like to kind of give us a background on Hokkaido?
Yeah, sure. So Hokkaido is the northernmost island of Japan. For the most part of Japanese history, it was very, it wasn't underneath Japanese control. It mostly had the Aboriginal people there. That is the Ainu. It was pretty much their land until about 1869. So all the way up until that point, Japan hadn't really fully conquered them. I mean, during the Edo period, they did kind of conquer them, but it wasn't until 1869 where it was called the Yezu or Yezo prefect or province, but then it was renamed to Hokkaido.
Oh, okay.
And then it's actually been a huge part in, I guess, the opening of Japan. The city of Hakodate was actually one of the first harbor cities in Japan to open up. So actually, if you go to Hakodate, it is full of different architecture. So there is Russian architecture, there's French, there's Dutch, there's a bunch of different architecture. So if you go there, it's not your typical Japanese city. And actually, in fact, a lot of Hokkaido's, I guess, towns and cities are not your very traditional central Japanese cities. They're very unique in their own way. But especially in Hakodate, that's where, if you wanted to explore architecture from around the world, but maintaining one city, Hakodate is the place.
So it'd be fair to say that Hokkaido is kind of like one of the beacons for the end of isolationism in Japan?
Pretty much. And also it's very rural. There's a lot of nature there because for a lot of throughout the history of Japan, they have not been really conquered because it's so cold there. So during the winter, it completely freezes over. So you would imagine that if you're trying to conquer the north, it would pretty much be assault during the summer. And if you can't conquer the entire province, the entire island, then you have to pretty much start all over again at the end of winter. It's literally like you would have to go in, try to conquer, and run out.
Okay, so yeah, that would prove pretty difficult, which would explain the rough terrain and the, I guess, like you said, rural feeling.
Yes. So yeah, that's why it was kind of stayed out of, I guess, the major thing. It wasn't until Oda Nobunaga really conquered it. Throughout like if you watch the history of Japan, and he pretty much goes, yeah, and conquer the north, get that checked off the list. It pretty much was that, where the north was such a big, I guess, I wouldn't say eyesore, but it was kind of like a thing that no one had done yet, and that they really wanted to get done.
Yeah, like a large thing of open land to just control.
Yes. So that's why they went and conquered that.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Seems like there's quite a bit of a variety of culture I think we'd find there.
Yes. It's a lot of, if you're looking for a more purely nature and widespread towns, Hokkaido is the place to go. If you're looking for more of an urban feel, then definitely central Japan is more where it's at. But a lot of Hokkaido's land hasn't really been urbanized. There still are a lot of mountains, and actually Hokkaido is known for its amazing, stunning scenery because so much of it has not like been industrialized. There's not like cities everywhere. It's just kind of like, here's a city, Hakodate, there's Sapporo, and then there's smaller towns spread out through. But it's not like central Japan where it's just like even just kind of area after area, like prefect. So yeah, that's what kind of really makes Hokkaido special. Also for us, to the audience, Hokkaido was I guess, the place that we kind of thought of for for this podcast. We were actually watching a video on Hokkaido when we came up with the idea of doing this podcast. So for us, Hokkaido does hold a pretty special place for us, because that's pretty much where it all started. So yeah, so I'm actually really excited to do this episode, I guess.
It feels oddly personal to me, but I think that's kind of exciting.
Also, we decided to try something new in terms of format. We decided to give each other a time limit. So we're going to be discussing places we want to go within if you only had a certain very small amount of time in that area in Hokkaido, what would you do and when would you go? I chose winter because there's just so many things in winter you can do that I'll talk about later on. And Robert, where did you choose and when?
So I chose to go this summer, maybe spring, but most likely just summer. And I kind of chose to mostly focus on, funny enough, the urban stuff, because that's just more of the stuff that I kind of just inspires me. For example, and the big one that I think the people who know me would kind of expect from me is that I really want to go to the Sapporo Beer Museum. And Sapporo is one of my, Sapporo Reserve specifically is one of my favorite beers to drink. So it's just like I want to, go to the museum. I kind of want to try the classic Sapporo that they only serve in, I believe, Hokkaido, if not just the museum.
Do they have is that where they produce it, or is it just kind of like, here is the history of the Sapporo beer?
So, as I understand it, it was the building itself. Funny enough, before it was used to produce beer, it was actually producing, I believe, sugar.
Oh.
And then the building, I believe, in around the 1870s, was then retrofitted to use as a beer factory. And then I believe in 1985 they decided to change it into the museum that it now is today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I believe they still produce some on site there, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly just for the sake of having a museum. But yeah, I mean, like the museum, you can have guided tours, or you could just go in on your own. But then you can just try some of the beers they have there from a lot of local breweries, and not just Sapporo, but also some smaller local ones.
Oh, so it's more local kind of selling there, or is it like a local bar-ish, or?
So what happens is right next to the museum, there's a lot of restaurants and beer halls. So apparently it's very common in most of those places that it's just like, hey, here's all you can drink beer, or here's all you can eat mutton or other food, stuff like that. And so it's pretty much a very good social place if you just kind of want to just relax, enjoy the beer, and just, relax. Drink responsibly, of course. Yes. But yeah, museum, as you might imagine, explains the history of the company as well as how it's produced. So I figure that's also pretty interesting to know. But after that, I'd probably move from the museum to Susukino, which is Sapporo's entertainment district.
Oh.
And really, I just kind of want to see the nightlife in just a place like Sapporo, in the north, like Hokkaido, where it's cold all the time, and it's well, not all the time, but especially in the winters. Not like I'm going to get to see it then, but I just kind of want to see the life, the bars, the restaurants, all karaoke, just I want to just see kind of experience it for myself, but also see the people there and just kind of see the life of the people there. It's very much a big thing I enjoy about traveling.
I've heard that the restaurants at night are actually very welcoming to foreigners. So even if they can't speak any Japanese, they will pretty much make a huge attempt to try to sit down and kind of converse with you. So I've heard that they're very extremely friendly. Plus, it's going to be absolutely cold outside, so you'd want to go inside to kind of talk or do something that to warm yourself up.
Yep, definitely in the winter. I don't know about the summer specifically because I know that summers in Japan
Sure.
specifically get very warm. But I am, if I do get a chance to go, I'd very much look forward to experiencing some of that hospitality.
I heard in the summer that it's actually throughout most of Japan. If you go during the summer, it's gonna be hot and humid.
Yeah.
You're going to like go outside and you're gonna just like sweat because of the humidity.
Hmm.
Which a lot of people don't really realize until it's too late. But in Hokkaido, it's different. It could be hot, but usually there's like no humidity there.
Mm.
There tends to be nothing like that. So it usually is like really nice during the summer, but extremely cold during the winter.
Yeah, and that's a quick tangent. That's part of the reason I chose not to go in winter because I have no experience with extreme cold or snow, and it's like I don't want to suffer and like lose time on my trip just like coping with the cold. Um, but yeah, after moving from Sapporo, I'd like to go to Otaru, which is the city that houses the Nika whiskey distillery. Recently, I've kind of been getting into whiskey more, so I'd like to try more Japanese whiskey, and I feel like that'd be just a beneficial trip for me to just try a bunch of different kinds.
How old is it?
So as I understand it, it was the founder was one of the people who created Yamazaki whiskey distillery, which was the first in Japan, which I think was in like 1912, 13, I believe.
Hmm.
Don't quote me on that. I have to check the dates on that one. But then after a certain point, um, he left the Yamazaki company, went to Otaru, and then seeing the conditions there, decided to found the Nika whiskey distillery in, I believe, 1938.
Oh.
And yeah, it was very much he had skills that he had learned in Scotland that he brought back. His wife apparently was Scottish too, so she helped him
Hey.
start the business. Yeah. So it was very much one of those cases where it's like you take something, a culture that you've seen from outside Japan, learn about it, and then you just kind of bring it back and do your own flair on it in Japan. Similar to how Sapporo beer is German lager style, I believe.
Hmm.
So, yeah, there's just the museum again. There's a lot of different whiskeys to try, and it's really just kind of Robert's alcohol drinking experience at this point. But after moving from there, I'd probably head towards Furano, which is a town that like produces apparently a large amount of lavender and other flowers.
Okay, I was about to say alcohol.
Surprising, no. I'm trying to wheel it down so that I have a liver at the end of this trip.
All right, all right.
But yeah, apparently it's been like large lavender fields have been established since the 1960s. They have like all sorts of different flowers besides just lavender, like poppies, sunflowers, lilies, other various flowers like that.
Hmm.
And from what I've seen in like my research and in some pictures, there's just like so much color going around. Like it's just vibrant. Like I was not expecting to see that much color, and this is very much coming from a person who is not does not have a lot of experience with botanical gardens or stuff like that. So it's like I kind of want to switch gears, slow it down a bit, kind of just take in the sights. This is, I guess, would be more my nature part of it because I'm not too into hiking and stuff like that. But I'd like to walk around the fields and see how everything is.
It's definitely not there during the winter.
Yeah, no, definitely would not see it.
If you try to go to the lavender fields in the winter, you're gonna be disappointed.
Yeah, it's very much they very much bloom primarily in the summer, ending around August. So yeah, I wouldn't see it. So I'd have to go in the summer. Another thing I'd kind of see, and this is more of a wild card that I wasn't expecting, but it's more my curiosity, was that there's the Blue Pond. I believe it's adjacent to the town of BA, and the weird little thing about it to me that made me curious is that it's like super blue, almost as if you had like a lot of chlorine in it, just looking like unnaturally like really light blue, almost turquoise. And apparently, it's because it's like part of a system to kind of protect the town in case the local volcano Mount Tokachidake ever erupts. So it's like a weird sort of barrier in a sort of way to just protect the town.
I guess it probably is more for like when the like if there's lava that flows down
Right.
and it just stops it in its tracks.
That's kind of what I mean. But like, yeah, I'm curious. I'm just curious as like, oh, if I can, I'd like to go take a little side, you know, tangent to go take a look at it. But it's not like the most critical part of my trip. But yeah, final destination would actually have to be Cape Soya, which is like the northernmost point of Hokkaido and I guess Japan in general. Um, and really, I don't have like some grand reason. I've just seen pictures, I've seen the view, and I just really want to go there and take the view in for myself and kind of use it as a nice kind of, I guess, endpoint for my own trip. I'd want to really just kind of take it in, take the sights in, maybe see some of the local foods there. But like, it's really just I want to experience it and just kind of have the moment that I kind of see from the pictures.
I also hear that from the most northern part,
Mm.
you can actually see a couple islands that are heavily disputed between Russia and Japan. Yeah, so that's like really the big thing is like there's just like this small little island off the tip of Hokkaido that Russia claims is theirs and Japan claims is theirs.
Nobody.
It's one of those things where it's kind of like it's there, but no one does anything with it
Yeah.
because they know that if they do, then things are gonna go like things are gonna be all weird between the two of them. So they just no one touches it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, best to just leave that mess at that point alone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of my trip. A lot of alcohol involved in the trip, but you know, I tried to bring it back to a bit more natural. I could definitely see myself not going to the Blue Pond, but I'd really like to at least make sure I hit all those other places that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And that would end my trip. But Thomas, I know that you talked about going in the winter, so what am I not getting in the winter?
I feel like a lot of Hokkaido kind of opens up in the winter, which is kind of strange because you would think snow, things closing down, which things do close down. However, because Hokkaido is so, I guess, it's so rural that the snow, it just adds on to things. Also, the people have been living in snow for so long.
It'd just be part of the culture at that point.
It is just part of it. So the first place I would want to go to is the Niseko, which is a mountain. It is probably has the most famous like ski resort in Japan.
Oh, so you know how to ski?
I don't know how to ski. I've gone snowboarding before. But I've never done skiing. I went snowboarding with a friend and he let me borrow his snowboard. And he told me, all right, I'm going to show you how to snowboard, which he's been snowboarding since he's been like 5 years old.
So he'd know.
Yeah. So, for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, that day I go, okay, awesome. That's perfect. I'll learn how to snowboard. That sounds great. Well, he didn't really teach me. He taught me how to strap in to the board. We went up the mountain, and then pretty much he's like, all right, one way down.
I'm surprised you want to go to a trip because that already sounds like it's set up for trauma.
It took me like at least an hour to get off the mountain because I had to learn how to snowboard from scratch. He didn't really tell me how to do anything. I mean, he was there like with me hanging out, but like it was a lot of me figuring out what to do. Like at the very top, I strapped in, and then I just started sliding, and
on the board.
yeah. So you're supposed to stand up with your chest facing forward, so then you don't start sliding down. Well, I guess I was off to a slant. So then I started sliding down, and then I straightened out like sideways, which that's how you really pick up a lot of speed, which is what I didn't want. And I just started sliding down. I remember turning to him and being like waving up my hands in the air like, I don't know how to stop. as I'm like sliding down, and then I ended up just like, okay, it's either I keep going, or I just kind of sit down and just take it. And so I decided to like sit down, which was like the only way I knew how to stop.
I mean, that's not wrong.
And he wanted me to go left instead of right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there was two different ways. There was one way I couldn't really see, which was left, and then there was the right way, which showed kind of going down further. And I was still trying to figure out how to like stop. I was still trying to figure out how to slow down even. He wanted us to go left. Well, I ended up just going right naturally. So we just went right. By the time I got to the bottom and I actually got a good feel about, okay, it's really in the like ankles about which way you want to lean. I was figuring things out. I learned how to slow down. And once I figured out how to stop, I actually became proficient. That was the biggest hurdle, was figuring out how to stop while snowboarding. And then I got to the bottom. I finally got done with it. Bruised up because I had fallen like a million times. I actually once face planted as if it was like you would see an anime character with like, they'd have their hands forward and like they're pretty much just falling flat on their face.
So graceful.
That actually happened to me, and like it was way too funny. I actually was laughing so hard because like I could see myself flopping down as if I was like an anime character, just like slid down a little ways.
Well, I can tell it built character.
And I looked back from the bottom, and the left side was straight down. It was like two slopes that just went boom, dump, boom, straight down.
So your friend was a sadist.
I think he wanted to get down as fast as possible, and then that would have been a ridiculous sink or swim moment. But I am really happy I just naturally went right, because if I would have went left, I probably would have. It would not have been fun. I probably would have like broken something.
So you want to take that experience and you want to take it to a Japanese ski resort.
If I went to a Japanese ski resort, they actually give you lessons on how to ski. Plus, it'll be a lot more fun, I guarantee it, than than me just going to a random top of a mountain and just trying to figure it out. Then there is the Hirafu town, which is right at the base of the mountain, and it is absolutely amazing looking because it has an amazing nightlife. There's lots of restaurants. There's lots of places to buy stuff. It is an amazing area. It's lit up. It has a lot of snow, of course.
Are we talking like small little markets, or like full blown restaurants, or like stands, or like what kind of?
It won't have stands because it'd be literally
Yeah, of course.
like negative degrees.
I mean, you never know.
But it does, like from what I've seen, is there's lots of lights, lots of people walking around, lots of restaurants that you can eat ramen, which also Hokkaido is known for its ramen. It's known for ramen and milk products.
Oh.
So Hokkaido is really proud of its milk. Anything that's made with milk, so cheese even. There's like places you can go to get Hokkaido cheese, and it's just really well known about that kind of stuff. Some people even bring back cheese as a gift, like for Japanese people. If they go to Hokkaido, they might get like some sort of cheese and bring it back. Ice cream is really big. And
yeah, I remember you showing me some of that.
And even people eat ice cream in the winter. It's actually a common thing to eat ice cream in the winter.
Sounds like it'd just make you colder though.
Yes and no. There's also, so if you're traveling in Hokkaido,
Yes.
let's say you get off the train, which if you're going in the winter, I highly recommend you go by Shinkansen or train. There are heated seats.
Okay, that's a luxury.
It's not so like it would have like a bench as if you're at a regular train station,
Yeah.
but it would have a massive heat lamp over it.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
And that's what they would have. They would have those, or there's even just heat lamp stations with a standing one, so you can stand underneath it. So it's not like if you're waiting for a train, you're not gonna absolutely freeze.
Yeah.
They have like heated areas that you can wait because they realize that it's really really cold.
But then at that point, when your ice cream start melting faster, this is me not knowing more than anything.
You just eat your ice cream as usual, man.
I guess.
And then, so that would be that resort. It is one of the most well-known places. It actually has 3 areas, like 3 towns. And Hirafu is just one of those 3 towns. It is the most famous out of them. And then afterwards, I would of course go to an onsen.
As you do.
Yeah, I go to Nobori Betsu Onsen, which is the most well-known onsen in Hokkaido. It is actually right by an area called Hell Valley, where Hokkaido is very volcanically active.
Okay.
They have a lot of active volcanoes, and then in this area, it just gushes out gallons upon gallons of hot water.
So that makes it prime candidate for like onsen.
So yeah, the Hell Valley is just pretty much coming from the sheer amount of like steam coming from the hot water that is producing. And that's why they kind of call it Hell Valley, is because it looks like there's lots of smoke continuously coming from that area.
Such a pleasant name.
Yes, but the resort is really, really nice. It's very well known, and of course, for me, I'm all about trying out onsen.
It's been kind of your big hype thing, this entire podcast.
Yes, I'm actually really excited to try out onsen. I am just really excited about it. I think that's probably going to be one of the big things when I go to Japan, is trying out the different onsens in each area. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Just be the onsen man with the onsen plan.
And then, lastly, for the trip, I would go to the Sapporo Snow Festival, which is the biggest event in Hokkaido, pretty much. So, a little bit of history is it kind of started in about 1950s. The area was mostly used for snowball fights, stuff like that. And then a few high schoolers made like a sculpture in the middle of the area. And ever since then, more people have made more sculptures, and it's just slowly become bigger and bigger and bigger. It didn't really become huge until about 1972. That is when the Winter Olympics were held in Sapporo.
Oh, so it's a prime opportunity then.
So they had the snow festival about at the same time as the Olympics, and the theme for it was "Welcome to Sapporo."
Oh,
and so that's pretty much when it came into the international level of being well known.
so good timing with a good theme just led to a big event kind of thing.
Yes, so they pretty much would. It's mostly about the sculptures. There's also kind of like ice caves that some people make, where you can see kind of like you kind of explore these like little ice structures almost. And then there's even little shrines that are made out of ice.
Oh,
That I saw that you can usually you make a prayer and then you throw it into the water. But since everything's out of ice, what you do is you actually stick it onto the wall. And so you go into this area that has like a wall of yen stuck to it.
just coins everywhere.
Yes. So that's pretty much how it really started, was the exposure. And then there's different levels of it. There's like an international level, and then there's more of a I guess community level. And so in modern times, there's actually 3 different sites if you go to the snow festival.
Mm.
There is the Odori site, the Susukino site, which actually talked about going to see more in the summer.
Yeah.
And then the Tsudome site. The difference is the Tsudome site is where if you have kids. So let's say you're taking kids to Japan and you really want to have them have that snow experience of sledding or going down ice slides or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you go to the Tsudome site. That's pretty much where they have ice slides, a more kid-friendly area. That's pretty much where all the kids play.
That's pretty interesting. So the design is like, how complex the slides are we talking? Like just like small little ones?
They're just decent sized slides. If you would think about a inflatable slides, even how kind of like those are decently high up. That's pretty much what they are. A lot of things that are made with the ice or the snow at the festival is ridiculously big.
Yeah.
Like I'm not thinking like when I say a ice sculpture, I'm not like talking about like something that is about the size of a snowman. It is something that is like hundreds of feet tall.
Really?
It is ridiculously big on some of them.
I'm trying to imagine how high that would even look, but I can't even imagine. That just sounds... The amount of work that I imagine having to go into that just seems insane. Like, I mean, do you know how long people have to prep for this, or...
They didn't say how long they prep for it, but usually I believe it takes like a couple weeks that they give to kind of let people do their thing. The main site, which is the Odori site, that's where you find these big sculptures. So here in meters, it could be 25 meters wide by 15 meters tall.
That's quite a bit.
So... yeah, to kind of put it into perspective, that is kind of a general large sculpture. There's other ones where people do other themes. The past couple of years, people have done anime themes. So people have done like Attack on Titan themes where they have like the giant colossus looking over the wall. They've done something like that. People have done actual like titans where they've been really big. Other anime themes that people have done, and then there's also been more recently a like Shikansen display because they expanded the Shikansen there. They kind of did like a renovation to celebrate pretty much the Shikansen getting there. They made like a big Shikansen kind of sculpture.
That's pretty impressive.
Yes, but that is the main site. So, like, if you really want to see these big sculptures, that's where you would go. Then there's a Susukino site, which is what you're talking about, which has a lot more shops, restaurants. But in the center of it, of the pretty much the hallway, the road, there are more sculptures. But those are more long sculptures that kind of go the distance. There's usually tends to be like 6 at least along this area. So they tend to be pretty long. So yeah, that is kind of that area is more of restaurants buying things, stuff like that. And so then, other than that, that is the Winter Festival. I believe, if I am correct, it is the 72nd. Festival coming up in this year, 2020. However, I believe it's been canceled because of COVID.
Sorry, do you mean 2021 or
2021? Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's been canceled. According to their website, it shows that it's been canceled. So I don't know until when or what they're gonna do for it. So yeah. Other than that, there is one thing that I do think is thoroughly interesting that I would like to do as a side thing would be a ice hotel.
Like, as in the hotel with giant ice sculptures, or what are we talking about?
No, it's like an actual hotel room made out of ice.
Where would I go for that, and how is that situated?
So there's actually a place called the Ice Village. funny
appropriately
enough.
titled.
Yes,
Yeah.
for the ice hotels.
Uh-huh.
And they are, so it is completely made out of ice, but they're more of a dome shape.
Like an igloo style, or
Kind of, except for when you think of an igloo, there's like a small little entrance, and then it kind of opens up.
Yeah.
This one is very much different, where it's just a dome. There's no small entrance or anything like that. It's pretty much just the dome.
okay.
Where there's the like ice furniture there. They have like ice armchairs, an ice table.
I can't help but imagine I'd be in my like thickest coats the entire time in there.
I don't know exactly how warm it is in it. They didn't say the specifics about temperature, but there's even the bed. So the bed isn't made out of ice. You're not sleeping on a block of ice.
Thank God.
It has like a podium where it has like a mattress and then blankets.
Okay.
But you can sleep there. There's also 2 other areas to it. So there is an actual bath, it's just a hot bath, but the area is ice, made out of ice.
That begs more questions, but okay.
And it's supposed to be more out into a birch area. It's supposed to be a bit more open. So you're supposed to be able to see the starry night sky along with the birch scenery and the bath. And then there's the like ice building that you're kind of in.
Interesting. And I'm assuming this is only open for a very select time of the year.
Yes, only during winter.
Yeah.
And then there's even a kind of booze area. So if you
course
are
there is.
feeling cold, you can warm up with some alcohol. So yeah, there's that. And then I was actually shocked by the price. The price is about 25,000 yen. And converted into dollars, that's about $250.
I mean, that's still quite a bit, but I would honestly expect more for that kind of resort.
Yeah, so I don't know if it has /person buy it. So I don't know, like, if you buy a 2-person one, would each of you be spending $250?
That starts adding up very quickly.
Then that's where it would be very expensive. But I mean, you gotta think you're staying in a actual hotel made out of ice.
Now I'm just trying to imagine somebody like sitting at the front desk and it's just ice and they just got their full coat on.
Right. But yeah, that's pretty much what I would do during the winter part. If you're traveling at all in Hokkaido, whether that would be summer or winter, the scenery is going to be amazing. I would recommend going by Shinkansen, by train, just because, one, driving in the snow is not good.
Yeah.
Unless you've lived in an area where you have experience driving in snow, but then also you're also driving in a different country. So trying to get a rental, you're still, for us here in America, I'm pretty sure they drive on the other side of the road. In Japan,
I'm pretty sure we'd have to actually get full other licenses to drive.
Exactly. So yeah, there's that. But then there's some buses in some areas that you do have to take, but Shinkansen is definitely the way to go because it usually has just a big window. You can look out at the beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry too much about anything.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I would only ever say that in the summer, you're probably going to want to take a car if you're going to, like, the more out-of-the-way places. I mean, there are the buses, but, the Shinkansen will only get you so far. But, yeah, I will admit that seems like a very fascinating trip. Very unorthodox accommodations, I will say.
Yes.
I would say I definitely am curious to see the extent of those cultures in the snow festival in Sapporo. I mean, I'm assuming you've seen some of the pictures. Like, do you have like a favorite one that you kind of just saw? Like, do you have like a favorite sculpture or anything like that?
Not particularly. I mean, they're all very big and grand. They're all just stunning in their own right. A lot of artists go to it to show off their ability to sculpt. Because unlike kind of everywhere else, where you're kind of like you have to work fast
Mm.
in order to achieve it. You do kind of have to work fast in certain areas. However, because it's so cold and there's just so much snow, you don't have to really worry about that too much.
So it gives kind of the artist some time to breathe in a matter of
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, they still have a time limit they have to have it done
Yeah.
by. And it still is working with snow, so it will melt if you're like constantly trying to heat it up. But for the most part, they tend to just stay there. They are, it is ice
Yeah.
or it is snow. Like there's a lot of sculptures that are made out of snow that are stunning. So yes, I highly recommend. That is probably the biggest festival in Hokkaido. Like during any time period, that's the festival you want to go to.
That's pretty interesting. I kind of just wanted to get one last opinion on it, only because you kind of picked three vastly different kind of ideas. Well, technically four. But like, where would you want to spend the majority of your time if you were going to pick? Because like, for example, like in mine, you see like Sapporo is kind of like the big center, but like, where would you kind of want to spend the time? Like at a ski resort or in Sapporo for the snow festival?
I would say Sapporo for the snow festival. Also, the onsen is pretty close by to Sapporo. So I would definitely kind of go for that. I think if I was staying for a long time and my main focus was skiing or snowboarding, like if you love skiing and you love snowboarding, then going to the Niseko, that would be like where you would spend a majority of your time. There's also actually another interesting thing about that is there's a lot of English speakers that go there. So there's like, since Japan is pretty close to Australia, there are a lot of Australians go there for some reason.
I guess there's some comfort in that for people who don't really know Japanese.
So during this ski resort area, there is a lot of I guess familiarity with English or even just foreigners. Because since it is a big resort, it has a lot of foreigners going there, and so everyone's very friendly towards them.
Sounds pretty exciting. I'd definitely like to go see that.
So yeah,
that's pretty cool. But yeah, if you were going to, let's say, take a trip that didn't, or go to a place that didn't quite fit your kind of itinerary, you have anything in particular you'd want to do?
Well, while doing the research, I found Matsume's temple, which it is the first, or actually, sorry, it's the Matsume's castle. It was the first first and only castle built in Hokkaido. This was after the Edo period when they finally conquered it. They did put one big temple or one big castle there. I would really like to visit there, but that would be only during the spring, not so much as the winter.
Yeah.
It's because it has a lot of things you can do there. So they didn't just build a castle and say, okay, job's done. They built like a full district around it. So there's like a park. There is Buddhist temples. There is like a hiking circuit. There is also the actual castle itself. So it's not just kind of like here's the castle. It is like, here is the castle's district. Also, they planted an absolute F-ton of cherry blossom trees.
Interesting.
They had over 10,000 cherry blossom trees. And more than 250 different varieties of them. So I would want to go during the spring when they bloom.
Yeah.
And then do the hiking trail there that kind of goes through all of these different cherry blossoms. That's something that I would definitely do, but you could only really do it during the spring. You definitely couldn't do it during the winter.
Yeah, it'd be locked from you in that
I
case.
believe they actually shut it down during that time because it's just so, I guess, it's on top of a mountain, I believe. So it's very kind of difficult terrain during the winter. So yeah, how about you? Is there any place that you would want to go that doesn't really fit into your itinerary that you did?
I mean, kind of covering. I mean, I kind of talked about it a little, but I definitely want to go see the snow festival. I'd probably take the fact that there are three sites as a reason to kind of go around. But if I was gonna pick something that kind of I've thought about, but I didn't really think about putting it in, I'd kind of want to check out this location called the Fisherman's Mansion,
Oh,
which is like this actual mansion purchased or built and purchased, excuse me, built by a fisherman, and there's just a whole museum in it now. And I don't know, I didn't. It was kind of out of the way so far compared to the trip that I'd already planned. It was, I forget the exact location, but if I remember correctly, it just was more east that I just couldn't justify putting it in with my itinerary. I don't know if it's open in the winter. I'm almost certain to be open in the summer, but if I was going to add something to the summer trip, it would be that. But if I was going to pick for winter, it would probably be the snow festival, possibly also an onsen because I'm curious to see what that experience would be like in the winter.
for the museum, for the
Mhm.
fishing museum, is that like actual like fishing? Like, is it a museum dedicated to fishing, or is it like
I
dedicated to the man that built it?
I believe it's a mixture of both. Is if I understand correctly, it's um like the history of the fishing culture as well as the fisherman himself. I forget his name. I could only take in some brief looks at it, but it I think it's kind of more of a symbol for the fishing culture and how vibrant and alive it is because of the amount of markets that they have in Hokkaido. There's some where you can just buy all sorts of different types of seafood for along the harbors for like really cheap, but you can get very fresh kinds of fish.
Oh yeah.
I makes me wish that I was more into seafood. Unfortunately, I'm not, but I generally would probably give it a try still if I had the opportunity to go because I'm just curious to see what kind of flavors you could get from the fish in the Hokkaido area.
Yeah, I think when it comes in terms of seafood,
Mm-hmm.
I think being once you go to Japan, you'd probably be more interested in seafood
Mm.
because it is a lot more, I guess, fresh
Yeah.
in Japan in general.
Mm.
Not just Hokkaido. Hokkaido, of course, has amazing fish,
Mm.
but also there's other areas that just have really fresh fish.
Mm.
Where versus here in the States, it's only caught in certain areas and then like frozen and shipped off as fast as possible. Where half like some of the states you like the fish is questionable at best.
If you live in the Midwest, there's a good chance you're not getting any good quality of fish for the most part.
So yeah, there's no really possibility of getting really nice fresh fish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they do in Japan, and that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to is trying out these really authentic like fish dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Like from our very first episode, there was the Thai mesh from Mahime that sounded amazing. And there's just different kinds of fish meals
Mm.
in each area. So yeah.
The seafood in general is just a thing I'm hoping to get more invested in when I go to Japan. It's definitely the thing that I'm like, if I'm gonna do, it's probably gonna be when I get there, because it's like if I don't, I feel like I'm locking myself out of like a whole different experience of Japanese cuisine, and that just feels wrong in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to when I go to just get the experience. I'm not against the idea of trying fish, but it's definitely a thing that it's like I haven't grown up with the taste, so it's still very foreign to me.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yes, I know, Mr. Fisherman here. I just fish for fun, but he fishes to actually eat it over here.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't find the point of catch and release. I mean, yes, sure, fishing is fun.
Mhm.
However, I feel like I if you catch the fish, it's kind of like you need to eat it.
I mean,
You've gone through the trouble of literally catching a fish, of taking it out of its area, that I guess it deserves its right to be eaten. I don't know how that sounds, but like
it sounds. I mean, it sounds oddly aggressive to me. Um, I get the point. Like, it's sort of the reward for catching it. But for me, it's more just the fight that's interesting.
I don't even think it's more of the reward. I come from part of my ancestors are also part Native American. And I guess it's more of a respect to the animal, that if you are literally going out of your way to catch it and I guess interrupt its natural cycle, you need to respect that and do it for a reason, not just for like, oh yeah, I went out and caught 10 fish today. Also, there's some things that could happen. Like when you're fishing, you might snag like a different area of the mouth where you might actually kind of hurt the fish in a way where throwing it back would not be good. So yeah, anyway, that
I mean, I see your point. I guess just to close out my point, it's just more like I don't really have a use for the fish. Most of the time, I don't really have a place to send it, so it's just, why not just send it back? And that's just my experience with it.
Oh, anyway.
Yeah, getting back off that tangent.
On that note, I actually believe we've reached the end of this episode. I hope you guys have liked our new format. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know through either Instagram, Facebook, even our email is available if you wanted to be more personal. For the Instagram, it is at Distant Tourist. Distant_tourist.
Thank you.
Facebook page is Distant Tourist. So yeah, yes, you go ahead and let us know there what you guys think about kind of what's been going on. If you like this episode, I know we've been really wanting to do something like this for a while. So yeah, but thank you guys for listening.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
See you next time.
Later.